Ah, that was not what I was supposed to do. Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Some clone fragrances suck. Not a surprise when you're talking about fragrances that oftentimes are like 30 bucks and under. You know, when you're hitting that price point, when you're dipping that low, a lot of stuff is not gonna be so great. But guess what? Some clone fragrances don't suck. And that's what we're talking about today, clone fragrances that don't suck, ones that are actually really good, which to be fair has been a little bit easier here over the last few years because the quality keeps going up on them. I'm gonna have all these fragrances linked in the description. Feel free to check them out there. Let's jump straight into it with this one from Lattafa Al Nashama. Nice little presentation on this guy right here. Has a really big cap, pop that off and oh, the bottle's just, it was there all along. You thought it went higher, it did not. This fragrance right here is a clone of Initio's Paragon. And it's kind of interesting because they actually have another clone of Paragon, which is called Vintage Radio, which is also really, really good. That one also does not suck. Why did Lattafa need to clone the same fragrance multiple times underneath different names? I don't know, but they did. Quality here is really good. It's super sweet. So be aware of that. It's real sweet, almost like syrupy sweet when you spray this on, but the quality is good, the performance is there, and it's a very good alternative to Paragon. So if you're wanting that Initio for cheap, you can get this or Vintage Radio. Like I said though, be aware, man, it has a big, big sweet syrupy pop in the opening. So this one has plum, amber, bergamot, some floral notes in there, leather, and it's gonna run you about 30 bucks. You might be able to find it for a little bit less at some discounters, maybe slightly more, but it's gonna be right around that range. Before we hop to the next fragrance, here are some codes that you guys can use and a big update for the Max Aroma codes. The Max Aroma codes have changed. They are now Gent Sense 10 and Gent Sense 20 all together, and that's not Gents Sense, it's Gent Sense. So GENTSCENTS 10 and GENTSCENTS 20. The 10 code is for 10% off any order over 70 bucks. The 20 code is for 20% off any order over 150. So those are new codes for Max Aroma for 10% and 20% off. And then of course the new JOMASHOP codes are only good on the JOMASHOP app. And there's also the Oud store code. Among all the other codes, there's too many. All right, let's keep going. The next one we're gonna do is this little guy right here. This is Onyx by Maluma. Technically, I think it's Onyx Royalty by Maluma, but whatever. Now, this one is real cheap, even at full retail. Doesn't cost that much, and at discounters, when you can find it discounted, it goes obviously for even less. I've seen it before in the, I think, mid-20s price range. And this is gonna be a clone of 1 Million Privé by Paco Rabanne, which is unfortunately discontinued and pretty expensive nowadays. I don't know that this is exactly marketed as a clone, but that's pretty much what's going on. And 1 Million Privé, as I said, discontinued, expensive. I've seen it going for like 300 bucks on eBay, and it's a bummer because it's my favorite 1 Million. I think it smelled awesome, slash still smells awesome. Tobacco fragrance is very warm, sweet, rich, cozy, sexy, and it almost feels like it was a little bit ahead of its time because it's not entirely different from what they did with Angel Share, you know, by Killian. Obviously, they're not the exact same, but when you smell Angel Share and you smell 1 Million Privé, you can be like, oh, yeah, they're kind of playing in the same ballpark there, aren't they? They are. And Angel Share, everybody loves. Everybody's like, oh, Angel Share is the best. 1 Million Privé comes out, and yeah, there were people that loved it for sure, but you know, it comes out and it's just kind of like, discontinued. And there are other fragrances that 1 Million Privé is a little bit similar to, you could say, but it is still, at the end of the day, fantastic, really great. And this one is gonna get you very close, very similar smelling, for a much lower price point. And the quality here is actually really good too. Next, let's talk about this one, Abraaj Brackish. And That one couldn't be more obvious. Abraaj Brackish is a clone of Abraaj Brackin Man. And they did the whole thing just about here, didn't they? Only thing is, no magnetic cap. It's a heavy cap. It's pretty heavy, but not a magnet. Dang it. This is really good though. Very, very close to Brackin Man. To be fair, Brackin Man is not gonna be for everybody, so keep that in mind. Brackin Man has, you know, throwback fougere style to it. Pretty barbershop-y, yeah. And so if you're a younger guy, you might get that sprayed on and be like, oh, dang it, smelling like my grandpa. But my grandpa's smelling good though. I mean, honestly, if your grandpa's smelling like Brackin Man, I mean, he's a bit of a player. Shout out Gramps. I really love this one. You can't mistake it. Second you smell it, you know what it is. And if the presentation didn't give it away, then you don't really know much about fragrances to begin with. And this is not a company called Abraaj. This is actually Fragrance World. They have a whole line of Abraaj fragrances that are Abraaj. And of the ones I've smelled, they've all been really nice, this being one of my favorites. Let's talk about a fragrance where you would have no clue what it is if you didn't already know. This is one of those ones where if you see the bottle, see the name, you would just be like, oh. It's Lattafa Ansaam Silver. Like I said, what is that? I don't know. I will tell you though what this is. This smells quite similar to Azzaro's The Most Wanted. Now, it's not the exact same. It actually has more of like a sweet sparkle off the top, a little bit more so than The Most Wanted does, but it's still quite close, and it's a great alternative to the Azzaro. It has cardamom, bergamot, and vanilla, a very warm, sweet, sexy fragrance, big compliment puller, and you can pick it up for a little under 30 bucks at Fragrance Buy. Some other discounters, I've seen it going for like mid 30s up to like 40 or so. But if you can get it around that Fragrance Buy price, a little under 30, solid pickup. Really, really good stuff. Now I want to talk to you about a very random fragrance from a very random fragrance company. This is called Triple Threat from Ether Perfumes. And as I understand it, this is basically the oud store. So this is like their thing. One thing I do like about this, where they do have me, I talked about this with the little Abraaj over here. It's a little magnetic cap. Nice. And you can sort of lift it by the cap. Let's just try that again. Let's be very gentle. Oh, nice. But if you try to pick it up with any kind of authority, it's coming off. So Triple Threat. This is, oh nice, atomizer, I forgot to mention that. This one is a combo, a tribrid, not a hybrid. So it is 3 fragrances melded into one. It is Roger Parfums Elysium. It is Yasip from Bulgari and L'Immensité from Louis Vuitton. So those 3 fragrances put into one right here. So essentially a fragrance that's very citrusy, very lively off the top, you know, very zingy opening, very fresh, clean, a little bit sweet as well. And as it dries down, you have that kind of modern woody backbone. It maintains that cleanliness, that freshness all the way through. And it has really good performance as well, which you would expect because this is an extrait de parfum. As far as the presentation goes, pretty simple. Just a stock bottle really with the name on the front, a little magnetic cap there, but I'll give them a point for that cap. If you didn't have that magnetic cap, we'll follow that up with something that looks a little familiar, but with a different color scheme. This is Lattafa again, Al Nashama Caprice. Or if you look it up just as Lattafa Caprice, that will pull this one up. And this is a clone of La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique. And that is a fragrance that unfortunately in the US, not super easy to find. That is one of the most curious fragrance launches that I think I've seen, you know, over the past decade, honestly. I don't know that I have ever seen another major release from a really big house that immediately got hype, where people were loving it, people were buying it, wearing it, talking about it. Everybody was like, oh, finally, an awesome flanker here, great. I mean, as always, not literally everybody loved it. There were some people who it just didn't work for. That's how it always is though. But by and large, people were about La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique. And then in the US, it was basically out for a few months and then gone. And it was one of those things where you were like, oh, well, It's just popular. It's sold out, you know, they'll get it back in stock. They literally just released this stuff. And then there started to be rumblings about it being discontinued. And it was like, no, that can't be. So people started reaching out to Yves Saint Laurent and they were like, oh yeah, we did discontinue that. Sorry. Again, talking in the US, you know, US market. But what that did is it made a big demand for fragrances that smell like La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique that are actually available and aren't crazy expensive. So that's what this is. The idea behind La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique was not that hard to wrap your head around. Basically take La Nuit de l'Homme, you know, that DNA, and make it a little more modern, fresher, like a blue fragrance style of that scent. And that's what they did. And I think it smells awesome. Big compliment puller, really versatile, just a great release. And there was a big demand, slash is a big demand, for a fragrance in that style that smells like that, but is actually available and isn't too expensive. And this is probably your best bet as of right now if you want a Bleu Electrique alternative. There were fragrances before this one that did that. It's varying levels of success. Some of them were pretty good, others were pretty bad. But as of right now, I'd say go for that one. And you can find this under 30 bucks. From there, we have a nice green bottle from Grandeur, and this is Avenue London. And this fragrance is a clone of Greenwich Village by Bond Number 9. The cap is like very reminiscent to the caps that Daniel Gallagher uses on Pearlescent Parfum. That was the first thing I noticed though. I saw the cap and I was like, oh, that's strange. But this brand, Grandeur, has been popping up a lot lately. And this one is really, really well done. Now, if you've never smelled Greenwich Village, it is a little similar to Baccarat Rouge 540. So it's gonna remind you a little bit of that. That kind of airy sweetness, you know, you smell it and you go, ah, yeah, reminds me of the BR 540, but this has a little more sweetness to me, a little more fruity sweetness. Completely unisex, men can wear it, women can wear it. Just be aware with this, like fragrances of this style, you can go nose blind to it a little bit easier than maybe some other releases. So it can be one of those ones where you're smelling it and initially you're like, okay, yeah, it's there, I get it. And then you feel like it's gone, it's no longer there, you reapply. Then you're like, oh, it's gone again. This stuff is weak as water. And then you walk by somebody and they're just like, oh, sorry, did that 32 sprays that I did overwhelm you? My bad, I can't smell it. So yeah, be aware of that. Then we got another green bottle, look at that. Just green bottles galore over here. This is Bravanzo Vestige by Ramon Blizzard, which is part of Dumont Paris. So yeah, but this just sounds fancier, doesn't it? Ramon Blizzard. Of course, we all know Ramon. Big fragrance dude, Ramon, yeah. These come across a little bit higher quality than like the Nitro fragrances. The Nitro ones are cheaper, you know, much more affordable. So that makes them a better buy for a lot of people. But in terms of quality, these come across a little bit nicer, the Bravanzos. So this is Bulgari Tiger. And there are a lot of Tiger alternatives out there, really popular scent profile. This one is extremely well done. Nice quality citrus in there right off the top. A little bit sweet, fresh, of course. Nice woodiness right off the top as well. So you get a balance there when you first spray this one on. Some Tiger alternatives are like very top loaded with the citrus. And if that's what you're after, go for it because that smells great too. This one just has a little more, like I said, balance to it. So I really enjoy that one. It's like a change of pace. Good performance, you know, longevity, projection, on point, and really heavy too. Use this as a deadly weapon, chuck it at somebody and, you know, have them take that off the dome, go into prison for that. From there, we have Liam Gray by Lattafa. This is a clone of Gris Charnel by BDK. And this one you can get for about 20 bucks, 25 sometimes, depends on where you're shopping. But still, 25 is really about the most expensive you're gonna find this at most places, so crazy cheap. Has a pretty nice overall presentation as well. The cap is really lightweight, but the box is good quality, and the bottle is pretty nice as well on this one. Not too gaudy, not too tacky. This one has cardamom, fig, black tea, iris, vanilla among the notes in the fragrance, and it's just really, really, really good. Extremely close to Gris Charnel. This is one of those times where you have an alternative that's like so close that if you're not really into clone fragrances at all, and say you bought Gris Charnel at full retail, this would be one of those ones where if you smelled it, and then realize that you could have gotten this for about 20 bucks, you would just be like beside yourself. Just go, mother. I know that cologne fragrances are not for everybody, but you got to admit, from time to time, they will put something out that is so absurdly inexpensive compared to the fragrance that it's inspired by, and it's so close to that much more expensive fragrance that you just have to like throw your hands up and go, God, it's ridiculous. All right, last but not least, we have an off-non. It is Supremacy in Oud. And this one is very well done. This is a clone of Oud for Greatness, of which there are like 25,000 clones out there. Kind of would like to see off-non, you know, put out a little more stuff a little more frequently, at least here in the US where you can get your hands on it. That'd be nice. Fragrance World has been pumping out the releases. Lattafa has been pumping out releases. Off-non, not as much. Now, I'm not saying they're releasing nothing. They're releasing fragrances, just not at the same clip. And this stuff is great. Once again, the quality very, very high for the price point that you pay. And it's a little more expensive than some of the others here. It's like 40 bucks or so at most discounters, but you get a fragrance here that is very similar to the Initio, which is much higher in terms of price. Look at that, we began with an Initio, end with an Initio, but anyway, great performance here, big projection, great longevity. The whole sweet, spicy oud aspect of Oud for Greatness, they nail here. The saffron, the additional sweet notes, the nutmeg, and then also that patchouli, like a little earthiness as it dries down. All of that you get right here. So we're gonna end with that one, Supremacy in Oud, great for fall and winter time. And right here, 10 fragrances, 10 clones that don't suck. I did place a big order just the other day. I bought like $350 worth of clone fragrances. So when those come in, I'll work through them. Maybe we'll have some additions to the clones that don't suck list in the future. And we'll probably have some clones that do suck as well out of that haul. So we'll see. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.